Good morning and welcome to StudyIQ. I am Prashant Pavani. I hope you are doing good. Today is 26th September and we have some important articles to go through. Now, let me show you two articles. One is called Voter's Choice. As you can see, it's an editorial, and then you have this article here, A Change in the Maldives. Now, this article is, these two articles basically are written on this tiny nation called Maldives. Maldives, as you can see from the map of our country, it's our neighbor. If we go through the foreign policy of Narendra Modi government, then we know that we have this neighborhood first policy under which we will pay extra attention, or we will give first priority to our neighbors. So in that context as well, Maldives becomes a very important topic for our country. And if you go through your syllabus, then you will find that India and neighbors of India is part of your syllabus too. Apart from that, Maldives is part of this SAARC group as well. I'm sure we all are aware about what SAARC is all about, and we are not going into SAARC today. We are going to talk about Maldives. We are going to talk about bilateral relationship between India and Maldives. We are going to talk about Indian Ocean region and its security, and there are other things as well. But before moving ahead, I would like to inform all of you that for various different exams, we have different pen drive and tablet courses. To find out more about it, do check out StudyIQ.com. You can download the PDF of today's lecture from my FB page and Twitter handle. Now let me take you through timeline, or you can say political journey of this tiny nation called Maldives. It used to be a monarchy. After that, the person that you can see here, this gentleman here, his name is Gayoom. Gayoom insisted for a democracy. And after that, a referendum was conducted back in history. And after this referendum, this gentleman here, he became president. He took charge of this tiny island nation, or this country called Maldives. And as he became president, gradually he started accumulating more and more power, started becoming more and more authoritarian, and this was not acceptable to other opposition leaders and other parties that were out there. And they started campaigning against this authoritarian regime. They demanded for this open up political system and free election, holding free elections and things like that were demanded by the people, or you can say this opposition parties of Maldives. And predominantly these parties were led by this gentleman here called Mohammad Nasheed. Now elections took place back in 2008, and in this 2008 election, Gayoom was defeated and a new person took charge. Gayoom was, mind you, the first, you can say, he was the first elected president of Maldives, and the second one is Nasheed. Nasheed again started doing the same thing as he came, as he became powerful, or as he reached this powerful position, he started becoming more and more authoritarian. So later on, another party was, or another person was, fielded by this Gayoom. Gayoom's, you can say, half brother. His name is Yamin. So back in 2000, somewhere around 2012, February 2012 to be precise, this Nasheed was, a coup took place and Nasheed was kicked out. And then elections took place, and this person here, Mr. Yamin, became the president of this country. And since then, again, he became more and more powerful. He started doing all those authoritarian things. So we can safely say that most of the time what we have observed so far, if we go back to the history of Maldives, we see that as soon as someone comes to power, that person or that party will start accumulating more and more power. They will become more and more authoritarian. Now, the reason why it is in news is because last Sunday, presidential elections took place here in this country called Maldives, and the interim result is out. Ibrahim Mohammed Soli is the victor, or he became, the maximum. He got the maximum votes. 58% votes were captured by Mr. Soli. The good thing about this election is that 89, or you can say roughly speaking, 90% voters took part. 90% turnout, which is not bad at all. This indicates that people are very much, politically active. And one of the reason why they are politically active is because the things that used to take place, in this Yamin's regime. Earlier this year, he implemented emergency. This Nasheed, this person here, he's in exile for a very long period of time now. He's in Sri Lanka at present. He's disqualified from taking part in election because terrorism charges are applied on him. Then you have this Gayoom, the first president. He is behind the bars as well. He was kept or thrown behind the bars by his half brother Yamin. And as far as courts are concerned, what we saw in recent past is that we witnessed this thing that two judges of Supreme Court were arrested. Forces or excessive force is applied on many, you can say, like media is not free. They are not allowing foreign media to cover this election, and last minute changes were also applied on this counting procedure and things like that. So things were going really bad as far as democracy is concerned. It was all autocracy that was visible in Maldives in recent past, particularly under this Yamin's regime. So final result will be out on 30th September, and change of guard will formal, you can say that this change will take place on 17th November. Now, before moving on to again other items, let me tell you why this Maldives is important. As you can see here, this is Maldives here. Look at its strategic location, right? Everything is in its reach. It's an island, so you can imagine that it's merchant navy, or generally speaking waterways, it should be a strength area. That's then only you can survive. If you are an island, then you need to have good waterways system. You need to have this this industry performing very well. It was not doing that good, but somewhere around 80s, it became open for foreign tourism, and tourism is a predominant industry of Maldives. It's very famous, as you can see here. If I take you through a proper map or zoomed map, then you can find here, this is Malé here, and it is made up of so many small islands, isn't it? Equator is passing from Maldives, so this makes it a proper tropical Indian Ocean, you can say, island, a famous or a very favorite tourist destination for the people of England, of France, and there are other European countries as well. They do like to pop down here to get that extra sun that generally speaking they don't get in their home country. So anyways, it is famous for tourism, and corruption is quite prevalent over there, particularly in this Yemen's government. It was too much. Now, as we know that interim result is out, and we also know that it is not far from our country. It's our neighbor. The other thing is we also know that we have talked about this thing earlier on as well, that China, China has played, or China has tried its level best to penetrate here in this region, and because China is having deep pocket. It will throw money to the politicians, and it will promise all this, or it will help in construction and other things that can bring a sort of, you can say, a quick cheer on the face of politicians as well as people of that country. But if we analyze these deals or this you can say infrastructure projects that are conducted by China, in long-term basis, they are not that profitable. In fact, they are debt traps. This is another way of, you can say, Chinese colonization. So China building strategic assets or ports here is a matter of concern for India. It is a matter of concern for the whole world, because Indo-Pacific, or this Indian Ocean, is very important for world trade. It's very important for Indo-Pacific region and for the overall global trade, to make sure that this region is free from any sort of conflict. We don't want any particular country coming here, or any country that is sharing its border with Indian Ocean region or is part of this Indian Ocean region, to behave autocratically. We don't want hurdles as far as free trade is concerned. You have minerals, and there are so many things hidden in this Indian Ocean. So in future, China can come here and start extracting this natural resources from Indian Ocean. It can also create troubles for our country, India, and this is one of the reasons why relationship between Maldives and India deteriorated in the regime of Mr. Yamin, because let me tell you that as you know that this is part of the country is part of SARC, and a neighborhood first policy I told you about. This thing as well. I believe that Mr. Modi has his own way of engaging with other countries. He has visited Pakistan as well, but this is the only country he has not visited in our neighborhood. Can you believe this thing, that Maldives is the only country so far that Prime Minister Modi has not visited? He has visited our arch rival Pakistan as well. I still remember back in 2015, Prime Minister Narendra Modi was supposed to visit Sri Lanka, Maldives, then he was going to visit Seychelles here, and he was going to visit Mauritius. He visited all these 3 countries apart from Maldives. Maldives was cancelled at a very last minute. So it's all because of this, tilting too much. Maldives is not, paying that much attention to the concerns of India, and it is, you can say, tilting too much towards China. So this has created this cracks between this relationship that we have between each other. With each other, of course, then, or we share between each other. Now, India criticized this emergency that was applied, and this Yamin responded this criticism of India by denying visa to Indian job holders over there. Since June 2018, visas of Indian Coast Guard and Air Force personnel stationed in Maldives are still pending over there, right? They haven't issued this visas to our Indian Coast Guard and Air Force personnel. Then the larger agenda of our country as far as India and this India's neighborhood policy, or our stake in Maldives is concerned, we have to make sure that we don't want to create this image that we interfere with the internal political or any other matters of our neighbors. We don't want to create this image, and we should genuinely not, because it will harm us very badly. We should not only think about the short term, but we should also think about medium and long term too. So in terms of this medium and long term, if we keep this thing in mind, then this is not healthy if we interfere. So what we have to do is we have to make sure that gradually this Chinese hold over this Maldives fades away, and we have to make sure that we are everything that we do it for in our bilateral relationship. We should make sure that Maldives is economically developing, and political stability is there in Maldives. Now, Mr. Yamin, the good news is that at least Mr. Yamin has accepted his defeat, and he is going to, this change of guard is going to be as smooth as possible. That's what he has promised. Still, you never know, but it looks like things are all right. We don't know whether this is happening because of some political pressure, because the USA as well as European Union, they were ready to, apply sanctions on this Yamin's regime, and that could be one of the reasons. India has, of course, our Ministry of External Affairs has appreciated this change of guard, or this triumph of democratic forces. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had a telephonic conversation with Mr. Soli. United States of America and its State Department or Foreign Ministry has also raised their democratic, means they have issued the statement that people raised their democratic voices to determine the future of their country. Now, it's not only China, but it's also Saudi Arabia. If you have heard about Wahhabism, right? Wahhabism is a sort of extremist ideology. And as far as Maldives is concerned, as far as security is concerned, then Maldives is you can say, a bit of a dangerous country, because do you know this thing that if you analyze this people or foreigners joining ISIS, then we find in terms of population of a nation and ratio of number, they compare this population with number of people joining ISIS, then we find that Maldives is number 1. So it's a matter of concern, right? And Saudi Arabia has been here for a very long period of time, which is a matter of concern for India, right? We don't want Wahhabism and all these sort of extremist philosophies and ideologies, spreading here in our neighborhood. We also don't want it anywhere in the world. Then with Pakistan as well, Maldives was talking about this, military exercise and things like that. So Maldives did everything that will upset India, but now Maldives is, we have new party coming in, and a new you can say a new leader of Maldives will take over Maldives, so we can have a fresh start. We can get rid of all these pains that we had, or all these cracks that we have. It is time for us to cement our cracks, but we have to make sure that just a successful election is not going to end the pain. Challenges are there. You have the Saudi Arabia thing, you have China. China is not going anywhere, and the biggest challenge, I believe, is unity of opposition. They have to deliver. They have to demonstrate their capability that yes, opposition parties are for democracy, and when it comes to protecting democracy, they can let go their political you can say agenda. When I say political, I mean to say their selfish, or you can say their party oriented agenda, and they can work beyond party. They can work for the nation called Maldives. So that's everything. I have discussed so many things with you guys. Much of the things that we have discussed here are not were not you can say they were not there in this editorial and article. And today's PIB analysis, that is Press Information Bureau analysis, available both in Hindi and English, of course, catered to you on regular basis. Because PIBs are this special topic, and other important updates I get late in the evening and night. So I have took this Maldives topic on PIB as well. But what I have tried here is, of course, I have covered all these important points that we find in these articles that are printed today. But this PIB one is purely, analysis. I have this full freedom. I can discuss whatever I can, because it's a special topic that you don't find anywhere. Data and research is provided to you from various different sources. So, want to know more about this Maldives? Then do check out today's PIB. It will take 15 minutes or 16 minutes max, that video, but it will give you, this whole Maldives chapter will be over for you. You'll get everything about Maldives from that thing. Now, moving on to another item, it is about editing our genes. Very easy to understand. We have one American biochemist called Jennifer Doudna, and it's very interesting. You see that her surname as well has got DNA in it. Anyways, I'm just kidding. Right, so Jennifer Doudna, she is one of the pioneers of this gene editing tool called CRISPR-Cas9. Now, what this CRISPR stands for: Clustered Regulatory Interspaced Short Palindromic Repeats. Now, making it easier for you guys, observe this picture here. What you can see, cut end. What we do with our computers or items that we want to send from this place to another. If we want to eliminate one item, and if we want something else instead of it, then what we do is we cut and paste, isn't it? So something similar you can do with your genes as well. Now, this was tried back in China last month, and back in 2017 it was tried in America as well. Now, in a nutshell, if I tell you, then the thing is, we have reached a stage where we can do this editing. We can do this editing of our genes, and one of the reasons why this is done is to get rid of all those diseases, potential there are this diseases like cancer, and there are other diseases that you can get based on your genes and your DNA and your all this hereditary and things like that. So scientists, or you can say researchers or biochemists, are working on this thing, that if we can cut and paste this thing, if we can cut bad gene, and if we can inject or paste good gene, then we can avoid all these diseases. But it also raises a question, right? A big question is that, can we or should we control or dictate evolution process, this interference by human beings? We don't know the result, do we? So we should be very careful. If we are not sure, then it's better not to touch this area. The other thing is, in future, this can also lead to this, a whole, you can say, competition or war of a superior race. Which race is the best one, and all these things can take place in future, and it can also, push many you can say parents, they would be seeking this perfect child, and then you will find so much of editing and things like that. So in short, it will impact us as a living species. So we have to be very careful about the outcome of this sort of editing. Now, language matters. This is about National Register of Citizens, 25th, that was yesterday. This process to file claims and objections started by all those people, started for all those people who are left out of this draft that came out back in 30th July. Now, as per this draft, 40 lakh people are out of this list, and government is trying its level best to make it as smooth as possible. Supreme Court is observing this whole, or looking after this whole issue, so it's going to be a bit fair, right? That's what we can expect. But the matter of concern is that political parties, they are issuing some very, you can say, negative and discouraging statements. Like Amit Shah said something bad about migrants and or not migrants, but you can say immigrants, right? People coming from other country, they are called immigrants. So he was a bit harsh on one or two neighbors of our country, and this is something that we really don't appreciate. We want to develop relationship with our neighboring countries. We don't want to upset them, and politicians, particularly all those famous politicians, they should be very careful, because it's not just they are speaking about politics. We know that election is just around the corner, but that does not mean that we don't follow a decorum. With this, let's move on to latest news item. The first item that we have, and one of the most important one, is about NPAs, right? I have clubbed two things here. One is from the Hindu, and the other one is from a financial, or you can say a pink paper. So, Finance Minister has said that bad loans of banks are on decline, which is a good news. The other thing is economy passing through a phase of good growth. That is again a good thing. More growth, more development, more jobs will be created. Bad loans, the less we have, the more profit a bank can earn. If bank is having enough money, then bank will be a bit easier in its lending, or it will give you a loan at a reasonable rate. If you get a loan at reasonable rate or cheaper rate, then you will buy many things, you will invest in the market and things like that. So it will help the whole economy. He also said that with the consumption picking up, banking activity should improve. So that's a thing. This year we are going to recover approximately 1.8 lakh crore cash recovery of this non-performing assets, is as far as it's concerned. So this is again a good news. Financial year 18, we recovered 74,562 crore. 18,500 crore expected from monetizing non-core assets. Then he also talked about this task ahead, like rationalizing of foreign operations by March 2019, closure of 57 branches, PCA banks to have this quarterly performance milestones, complete action on fraud detection on loans of over 50 crore by December, that is end of this year, and new system to monitor accounts for NPA by December 2018. Again, by the end of this year, we are going to have a new system to monitor this NPA. So all this steps, task ahead, indicates that we are heading towards right direction. So it's a good news that is shared by Finance Minister. Now we have important another item. It is about politics, right? Cleaning politics, and Supreme Court has urged this parliament, or you can say this of course parliament and all those basically government, to come out with a strong law to cleanse politics. We know how our politics is criminalized. We know that there are so many leaders out there, and there is no single political party where you don't find criminals. You find criminals in each and every party at various different levels, of course. So Supreme Court has said that it becomes from now on mandatory for political parties to display the names of all those tainted politicians, all those politicians against whom If their members are going through some sort of criminal cases, and then those details should be there on that party's website. With this, this Supreme Court has also urged and also asked the government to not give tickets to offenders in both parliamentary as well as assembly poll. But it's very sad that this is not the first time, and this is not something that is something that is gibberish for us. We know this thing very well. Even I'm sure we have seen many politicians in our surrounding. They are criminals, but then as well they are becoming powerful. Then this is matter of concern, because this is death of democracy. So now the ball is in the government's court, and now let's observe the behavior of government. Let's see what government is doing on this thing. Supreme Court is going to come out or it is going to deliver this verdict on Aadhaar today, whether it is constitutional or unconstitutional, whether it is breaching fundamental right to privacy and personal body autonomy. Legislatures can practice law, has been said by Supreme Court. Parakram Parva, that is about celebrating surgical strike, will be celebrated in New Delhi, Amar Jawan Chowk, by armed forces. And EU announces legal entity to maintain business with Iran. It will set up a payment system to do business with Iran. So basically EU is not paying any, you can say it's not giving any sort of heed to this warnings coming from Mr. Trump. Commander Tommy has been admitted to hospital. Supreme Court forms a panel called Justice Amitava Roy Committee. Amitava Roy was ex-CJI, and he was not ex-CJI, but he was ex-Supreme Court judge. But anyways, the most important thing here is that this committee is about sorting out or reforming our prison system. So it's a very important thing. And Commerce Secretary talks about this bound rates. He's talking about this current account deficit. He's talking about how non-resident Indians are investing in India, and how things are, money is coming in, and all these things are going to help us maintain this CAD. Now, we also talked about one thing called bound rates. Bound rates are there to control imports, but you cannot have unlimited bound rates, right? You have to follow this WTO's guidelines. So keep this thing in mind, that bound rates are the rates that countries commit themselves to at the WTO. They cannot exceed. So if, say for example, for a mobile phone, if at present say bound rate is 15%, and at present if we are levying 10% tariff, then we cannot cross 15%. We can have 14.99, we can have 15, but we cannot have 15.5. So I hope this thing is clear. Russia and India together, we are going to develop civil nuclear or nuclear power plant in Bangladesh. And these are your 4 words. Please make sure that you pass your answers in the comment section. It is very important. Again, I would like you guys to be an active participant of this map-based questions that are asked to you and provided to you. The thing is that if you don't do it, it's not going to impact me, right? But it will definitely impact your preparation. All this 5-10 minutes effort that you have to invest, I would not say spend. If you are thinking that it is consuming your time and you don't have time for doing this, I haven't heard any sort of this sort of complaint. I'm just saying, right, that you should need to see our mind is designed to do all these things that are easy. Keep this thing in mind. Your mind will take you through easy things rather than things that are necessary. If something that you have to do is a little bit hard, and if something easy is available, then mind will take you through that easy thing. So this thing is something that you are not doing, and because of this thing it will become a bit hard for time being, for initial period, but then you'll get used to with it, and then it will become an easy thing for you. So you have to struggle for now, but later on you are going to benefit too much out of this thing. This Kaladan project basically is for the first time it is going to allow this northeastern states to have access to sea. So that's a big thing, and that's the reason why it is important. Then you have this map-based question. I'll give you a small hint. This country is not part of SAARC, or you can say South Asia. This country is not part of Northeast Asia. That's all I can say. These are your answers. These are your question. Write flag as well. Can you tell me the name of the country as far as this flag is concerned? And that's everything. Enjoy your studies. Please make sure you share this lecture with other students. God bless you all. Jai Hind.